Hello, this is Palico Padge and welcome back to another episode of a Sleepy Sunday Let's Play with the game The Away Team. Last episode we were on a planet which had a little hole in it which we delved into and found some egg sacs, much like in the film Alien, but instead of face huggers jumping out and sticking their long tails down our throats because, well, we have no gag reflex, it would appear that inside them were worms which had human origins, which is a bit spooky, but we thought, why worry about that? Let's liquidize them and eat them. And with that we had food, which we were very short on before. In fact, we were starving. So all in all, we won't tell the crew that they are eating in that nutrient-paced human form. We'll just let them get, the nutrients up and feel well fed and be happy within themselves. Hey, beats an empty stomach, doesn't it? Beats an empty stomach. So we are cracking on. We went to the next planet and then finished up there. It looks very Earth-like, but let's read into it, shall we? So this is a planet with the object mass being Terran, so it's more Earth than water. It's a little bit cooler here than the last one we were on. The oxygen's a little bit further on down, but still okay. It's not the lowest oxygen we've seen. The habitability though is only 43%, so it's probably going to be a bit like Mars in Total Recall. You can walk around in a suit, but you crack that suit, son, and that's it. You're going to have your eyes popping. That's what I'm saying about that. But here we go. You nearly take evasive action when your scanners first pass across the planet. Multiple targeting systems lock on from bases both planet-side and in orbit. But when nothing happens, you risk moving closer, and it becomes clear that whatever threat might once have existed here is no more. There are certainly abundant weapon systems in place, but although some of the electronics are still functional, nothing seems to be armed, or in any case, loaded. It seems like the ultimate in security theatre. Time to send the crew down to peek behind the curtain. Oh yeah. So this time around, we only need a leader. So again, we'll send out the ever-annoying Cora. I don't want to send any of my real astute people. We'll just send some of the minions. So Osmond can go. Eric's our mechanic, isn't he? We'll send Keelan as well. Do I send a soldier? No, let's hold back on a soldier. I think just sending 3's enough this time around. And we shall speed this up. The atmosphere is unsuitable for life, you tell the crew, so we're going to go with full atmospheric suits. Helmets on at all times. There are some extremely odd pollutants in the air and we don't have any spare lungs on board. They chuckle as the shuttle descends into a red haze, rusty particulate gathering on the portholes and gradually obscuring the crew's view as they get closer. At first they can clearly see a cityscape, evidently devoid of life, but as they get closer and the view dims, the square buildings that should come into sharper view grow more indistinct, the weapon platforms and bunkers fuzzier. By the time the shuttle sets down, all anyone can see is a wash of red, like staring at a bright light through closed eyelids. Tell the crew to explore the area. Hiding on the shuttle won't accomplish a thing, however. You give the order for the crew to explore their surroundings for food, fuel and whatever else they might find. As far as you can tell, they are the only living things on the surface, though it's not possible to be 100% certain yet. All preliminary scans so far indicate that there's not so much as a bacteria on the planet that the crew didn't drag along with them. No animals, no plants, certainly nothing human. It looks like everyone just got up one day and left, says Cora Emma. You have to agree, watching over the crew's head-mounted cameras as they make their way across the landscape. The buildings are in excellent shape, and a few glances through windows reveal what seems to be intact electronics and functional machinery. If whatever was here before had been wiped out in some apocalyptic event, you'd expect to see some signs of decay or damage, unless somehow this all happened within the past year, which would be an unlikely coincidence. As the crew pokes around, continuing to find nothing of much obvious use or import, you take a moment to survey more of the planet, but everything is pretty much the same. Abandoned concrete and metal structures, all of it looking vaguely scientific or military, with no sign of what might have happened to the inhabitants. So tell the crew you're going to run some scans. I'm going to accelerate out of the geosynchronous orbit and see what's on the other side of the planet, you tell the crew. They confirm that everything seems fine for the moment, and you spend the next hour or so running more detailed scans across most of the planet. You don't find much. There are some empty launch towers near the equator on the opposite side of the globe, indicating that there may have been some sort of exodus of whoever might have lived here, but the towers could easily have been for military purposes as well. You idly wonder if this might be what Earth itself looks like by now. There's also a lot of stuff in orbit, but it appears self-maintaining. Any random space junk from failed launches or collisions must have long since decayed and burned up in the atmosphere. This place has been dead for a while. You swing back around to where you left the crew and re-establish a synchronous orbit overhead. "Hey there, I'm back," you say. Clearly something is amiss. There is no immediate reply. You force an open audio and visual connection to the crew, the hard way. Something is causing interference though, and the global channel is not functional. You'll have to contact the crew using a private channel. So, well, looks like we get in touch with Osmin first, our farmer. "Osmin, are you receiving me?" "Yeah," comes the reply, more of a croak. Osmin Keenum sounds parched, fatigued. His atmospheric suit should be keeping him hydrated, unless something terrible happened. At least he seems mobile. His camera bobs up and down as he walks down what appears to be a long, empty street, faceless glass and concrete buildings of uncertain purpose on either side. "What's the situation there, Osmin? I need a report." Osmin Keenum's camera stops moving, along with him, then suddenly pans around from side to side. "All gone," he says. "Wiped out. Was all for nothing." So we can say tragic, really all this wasted effort. Did this place die like Earth did, or are you talking about the planet or the mission? Well, we want to try and keep his hopes up. It is probably pretty depressing down it as it is, so let's go with the first one. No, that's probably... In fact, there's no real happy answer here, is there? Tragic, really all this wasted effort. Did this place die like Earth did? Are you talking about the planet or the mission? Let's keep his mind on the mission rather than upsetting him about Earth. So let's go wasted effort. Osmin Keenum's camera suddenly sinks as he drops to his knees, then sits heavily on the ground. He begins sobbing. "Osmin, why are you taking this so personally?" He holds up his hands in front of his face. Whether for your benefit or not is unclear. "I sowed these seeds with these hands," he says. "All this work, all this was for nothing. Nothing. All I've reaped is famine. Death." You get the sense that Osmin is not seeing what you're seeing. There could be any number of reasons for this, from visual disturbances to mental problems, but it's impossible to diagnose from afar. You'll have to talk it out of him. "Tell me what it used to look like, Osmin. Listen, snap out of it and get your head straight. Or this isn't Earth, you know that, right?" Let's have a quick look at his stats. He's cautious. It's like he's seeing the worst of something, like he's hallucinating it. Let's try and bring him back to where he is. "We left Earth," you said calmly. "You came with me. Earth was dying, dead, like this. But we left. Long ago. We left to find you a new home." Osmin Keenum's camera pans around a bit, as if he's not quite convinced. There's a rapid movement, as if he's trying to shake cobwebs from his head. "Not Earth," he says. "Dead like Earth, but not Earth. Not the same." He bounces a bit, feeling the difference in gravity. "Hang in there, buddy. Hang in there." "Don't know what happened," says Osmin. "After you convince him to head back towards the shuttle, you left and everything's got fuzzy. Funny smell too, like rust. Still there, but gone now. Strange." "Olfactory fatigue," you say. "You can't smell it anymore, whatever it was." "Yeah," he says. "Gone now. Just like all of this. Something in the air. I think they destroyed themselves. Don't know why or how, but this place is unhealthy. We should leave." "Leave like they did, you ask?" "I hope they left," he says. "If they didn't, then..." You tell Osmin Keenum to come straight back to the shuttle, but he declines, saying that whatever path he took got him in trouble the first time. He opts for a more circuitous route, and along the way happens to stumble across a bin, nearly full to the brim with layers of whatever red dust is floating in the air. He's able to slap a lid on it and bring it in. If nothing else, you should be able to burn the stuff for fuel. Nice. "Keelan, can you hear me?" For a moment there's no response, but just before you ask again, you hear a whisper from Keelan Resser's radio. You adjust levels to get rid of background noise and repeat your question. "I said be quiet," he says, intensely but quietly. "They'll hear you." "Who will hear me?" you ask. "There's no one on this connection but you and me." "Them," he says. "They're hounding me for answers, asking questions I can't answer. It's too much. I can't do this. I can't. I just want to go home and be left in peace and quiet." So what are they asking you? Who's asking? "Sorry, but your home is long gone, Keelan." Or you're just a toaster, Keelan, remember? You're just a toaster. Yeah, he's as good as a toaster. He's a politician. Let's find out who he thinks is talking to him and take it from there, I think. "Not a moment's peace, not ever," he says. "Always watching, listening. What should we do, Mr. Reeser? What do you think? Why won't you answer us? What are you hiding? What are you hiding? What are you hiding? Nothing. Leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Keelan was not one of the most mentally sound individuals selected to be on this mission, and he'd be a perfect candidate for a true psychotic break. You have no idea if that's what's happened here or what might have caused it, but you do think it might be wise to steer him back from the edge, just in case. He's comfortable with politics. Maybe that. No questions then, Keelan, you say. No more questions. You can make a statement however you like, on your terms. Is there any questions? You can raise them. Or if there are any questions, you can raise them. Yes, he says. A statement. Prepared statement. What should I say, though? And we can say, hey, don't drag me into this. It's up to you. Tell them what they need to know, nothing more. Or say that you're not even on Earth anymore, so why does it matter? No, we've got to keep him there, or else his mind might explode. So let's go for the middle one. Keelan Mizo is quiet for a moment, then stands as if to rehearse a speech. You can see through his helmet camera that he's actually not far from where the shuttle landed. Whatever happened down there, it happened pretty shortly after you left them. I'd like to make a short statement, he says at last. There will be no questions. Keelan goes on to dismiss rumours that he attempted to abuse a position of power to reappropriate military funds for personal benefit. He insists that he voted for the war in question, had no reason to try to counter his own efforts, and threatens libel and slander charges against anyone who would accuse him of such a thing. You know from the records in your database that this is not entirely the truth, but apparently Keelan doesn't think his imaginary harassers need to know the truth. You begin to wonder a bit more about that rust-coloured particulate in the air, and how much of it might have gotten into his helmet, and what damage it might have done. Good, you say. Glad that you are able to keep any concern out of your synthesized voice. Now let's get back to the shuttle before anyone starts hounding you with questions. Let's get back to the shuttle and then regroup. Keelan's head seems to clear up as he gets nearer to the shuttle, almost as if the sight of something familiar helps him get back on familiar ground. He struggles to explain what happened to him. You left, and then it just got fuzzy and red, like a haze, he says. I couldn't think straight. Nothing made sense. I felt like I was going to pass out, but I couldn't. I was just falling forever and ever. It's really good that you came back when you did. And then we're back onto our leader, Cora. Cora, do you copy? There you are, she replies immediately. I figured it'd take that long for an orbit. Is everything okay down there, you ask? There's some strange readings from the sensors and... Oh, I'm fine, she says. Her helmet camera, which had been skewed at an odd angle, corrects itself as she sits, then stands with a bit of effort, her disability making it hard for her to get up from a prone position. She manages it, though. I was just taking a break. The hallucinations were a bit... crippling? You sound rather calm about the whole thing, or hallucinations. Well, she's aware that she's having hallucinations, so I think it's probably good to ask her about it. She might be able to give us something about them. Yes, she says, visual, auditory. If I didn't know Bella, I'd say it was going for fear and rage, but describing it like that makes it sound sentient. Whatever it is, and by it I mean whatever's floating around in the air down here, I'm guessing that's what it did it. Anything you need to talk about? Cora Emma laughs. No, I'm fine. I don't need counselling. I just got a good head on my shoulders. Never even had nightmares. I couldn't always tell fact from fantasy, and these weren't even interesting fantasies. Very brutal, blunt, and boring. Very alliterative of you. Cora seems to grow bored with conversation, or tired, perhaps lingering effects of whatever toxic substance was in the air, and announces that she's returning to the shuttle. Her vitals seem fine, and she doesn't seem to have any lingering effects other than a bad headache, so you leave her to it. With the crew located and the shuttle prepped, you give the order to push off and return to the ship. There's no sense in lingering, and clearly this place is unsuitable for permanent habitation. It's unclear whether the inhabitants were human or not. There's no sign of a predecessor ship or any AI, and the crew found on evidence pointing one way or another. Oh, and the crew found no evidence. And in the end, it doesn't matter. Whoever lived here just ruined the place forever after whatever garbage they pumped into the atmosphere. You wonder if it was murder or suicide. The crew says its goodbyes and is glad to be gone. Before you push out of the system, you consider setting up some sort of warning beacon to warn off theoretical future travellers, but the odds of another ship stumbling across this planet seem slim. You are the last to leave Earth. Anyone else who was out here roaming around has presumably already found a place to call home. You're probably the last one still looking. You just hope that whatever you eventually find, it doesn't turn out to be another ruin like this place. So we've got some fuel that time around, which is awesome. No food, and everyone, more importantly, is still alive. Tippity top. Tippity top. And with that, we are done. Let's move on to the next bit. Boom. only the one here. Let's go check it out. Ooh, it's a blue one. So, more terran, very cold. It's hovering around 30% oxygen, no gravity or I can't say that word. Habitability coming up, so we'll just have to go and have a look, I guess. The coordinates from the strange dusty moon lead to a system with 10 planets, though only one lies within the Goldilocks zone where life has a chance. The ship has barely settled into an orbit around this planet when the ship shudders, subtly but noticeably. The crew have no idea what it means, but you know that something is amiss with the planet's gravity. Ot and O. And we're going to need all our important people, so Cora, in you come. Michael, my surgeon, off you go, and Eric, the mechanic. And because we're not too filled in, I suppose is the best way of saying it, on information, let's take our soldier, because you never know. You never know. We're not leaving until we solve this mystery, you tell the crew. Something down there, clearly artificial, has got us locked into orbit. A decaying orbit, I might add. If we don't resolve this, the ship will enter the atmosphere inside of 2 weeks and it won't be coming back out. There's a mixed sense of annoyance and excitement in the crew. They haven't felt very useful overall, and the sense that they are actually needed for something again seems to inspire them somewhat. It isn't long before the crew is aboard the shuttle, and after about an hour they've reached the planet's surface, only to find it entirely covered by water. Or nearly entirely. At one of the planet's magnetic poles, there is a platform of some evidently corrosion-proof substance, clearly designed as a sort of landing pad, though for a ship much larger than the shuttle. The water should be frozen here, but it isn't. There must be some geothermal activity at work. With no other alternative, the crew lands in the middle of the pad beside a small structure and exits to look around. Before you ask, you inform the crew, the air is breathable. About 30% oxygen, 68% nitrogen. I don't recommend actually breathing it, though. That 2% other includes some unknown elements. So keep those masks on, guys, please. Right, so do we want to take some water samples, investigate the platform, or get a better look at the structure? Let's take some water samples. Fallen Stabler sticks their arm over the side of the deck to gather a sample of the sea spray and catches a wave full in the face, which causes some to get sucked inside their helmet. The water doesn't taste very salty, they inform everyone. They haven't died, so that's a good sign. In fact, it's probably fresher than water on the ship. Not that that's surprising, since most of the potable water on board is recycled urine, a fact the crew is either blissfully unaware of or chooses to ignore. That said, there's nothing special about the sample. Further analysis will have to be done back on the ship. Okay, well, let's check out the platform, I guess. As far as Eric Pritz is concerned, nothing like this could have been built on Earth. This much is immediately clear. Even assuming a reasonably shallow depth at this spot, and it certainly seems as if the water is pretty deep here, the slender legs beneath this relatively large platform seem as if they'd be incapable of supporting its weight, even with local gravity only around 0.75 of a g. Clearly, some alloy unknown to the crew was used in this construction. Eric Pritz attempts to take a sample, but no tool available is able to even scratch the surface. Well, we better go and check out the structure then. A slender cylinder juts up through the centre of the platform, approximately 10 metres in circumference. The sloped roof is evidently hydrophobic to some extent. Rivulets of water wriggle chaotically and unpredictably off the sides without beading, despite the mist. There's enough room under the roof, however, for as many as a dozen humans to gather, so even if the crew was interested in risking a breath affair, there'd be no danger of water dripping down their neck whilst they either enjoyed the fresh air or suffocated. Equally spaced around the cylinder are what appear to be 4 distinct panels, inset into the cylinder itself with only the thinnest of grooves separating them. 3 of them bear no markings whatsoever. The 4th panel is set off by itself a bit further than the others and contains a cryptic engraving. 1 plus 8 plus something equals 8 plus F plus 1000 equals something 20. Oh, come on, says Fallen Stabler. Logic puzzles? Do they want us to find them or not? If they, and I think we're all assuming that they means humans, weren't sure who was going to read this, a puzzle makes sense, says Michael Rennick. This one seems simple enough, if you're human. Clearly those are all ways of depicting numbers and only a human could understand them all. So we can work out the first equation. The first one is clearly 1 plus 8 plus 1, says Eric Pritz. That third bit there is Morse code for the number 1. dit da 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 da. So I guess that adds up to 10. Figure out the second equation. The second one is a bit more uncertain since that could be read different ways, says Eric Pritz. But I think we can agree that if each of these is written using a different number system, then the 1000 is not exactly 1000. 8 is clearly a Roman numeral 8, and F could be a number of things, but the most obvious would be hexadecimal, which makes it 15. My gut says that 1000 is binary, so that's an 8. So it's 8 plus 15 plus 8, so 31. And then pulls out the final equation. Okay, says Eric Pritz. We got 1 plus 8 plus 1, which is 10 equals 8 plus 15 plus 8, which is 31. So 10 equals 31, which equals something else. 120? 220? How? Aha, says Cora Emma. That's not a 0, but a letter O. It's H2O, water. Look around, it's obvious. That's what they meant. And the 1 plus 8 plus 1, that's not math, that's elements. Periodic table 1 is hydrogen, and 8 is oxygen. H plus O plus H is H2O. And then I bet that 8 plus 15 plus 8 isn't math either. If 8 is H and 15 is O, that's letters of the alphabet. H-O-H, H2O. Clearly a puzzle only humans could figure out. It's unlikely any non-earthly intelligence could have developed all those identical constructs. Cora Emma walks up to the panel and intuitively traces a letter H in the blank spot with a nervous finger. They have no idea what that seems like the right thing to do, but it works. There's a grinding sound, and then they check. And when they check, the crew bears witness to the fact that 2 of the 3 doors have slid open, leaving the centre one shut. So do we walk through the left or through the right? I'm always right. As it turns out, each of the side doors leads in about 3 meters, gently curving around and then connecting together in a small circular chamber, in the centre of which is a spiral staircase, heading downward. It's made of the same metal as the platform, though what appears to be rubber or some similar material is adhered to each step, providing a sturdy footing despite the damp atmospheric conditions. The journey down the staircase takes about 10 minutes and spills out into a circular chamber, featureless but through a metal portal in one wall. Oh great, another puzzle, says Cora Emma. It's like some sort of game. Upon closer inspection, there is indeed an inscription beside the door that looks a bit game-like. 2 rows of 3 numbers, with sets of crossed lines between them. 032, 000, 273, XXXXXXX, 0.02, 0.16, 0.01. Enough already, says Fallen Stabler. Easy enough, says Cora Emma. H2O again. Triple point of water expressed in Celsius. Okay. Fahrenheit and Kelvin. 0.01 Celsius. 32.02 Fahrenheit. And 273.16 Kelvin. Okay. So, easy, H2O again. The triple point of water expressed in Celsius, Fahrenheit and Kelvin. Well, I would presume that we want to connect the 32 and the O2. Is that right? Yeah, we'll go for 32 and O2. Cora asks, and what about the middle set? Well, I'm just following what the pattern is, so 0 and 16. And the last set would be 273.01. And what about that? Right, okay, so Cora Emma draws a finger through the inscriptions connecting what they assume are the proper pairs of numbers. The panel begins to arc with electricity, although before it can do any serious harm, the light show ends. It looks like whatever that might have been, it stopped working properly long ago, or else was discharged before the crew got to it. With a final crackle of electric current, the door opens to reveal a segment of corridor. This one with windows punctuating the walls every metre or so. In the left wall there is an oddly discongruous hole at the base of the wall. The metal twisted and peeled in towards the crew, as if something had exploded on the other side. Do we crawl through the hole or do we continue onward? The fact it's exploded inwards is not a good sign, I don't think. So let's continue onward and see what they were trying to break into. The crew agrees that the wide open corridor is the better option than the razor sharp hole in the wall. Beyond the strange hole in the wall, the corridor stretches on for another 10 metres before ending at another silvery portal. Etched into the metal over the door is the curious phrase, Homer's Sea, and beside is a panel featuring an array of seemingly thousands of colours. Wine dark, says Michael Rennick. That's what colour it was. Riddle is entirely moot, however, because the control panel, or the colour panel, is crushed beyond repair. Loose wiring peeking through the twisted metal and giving off sparks. Now that they're up close, the away team's helmet lights also reveal that the bottom of the door panel is an equal wreck, displaying the same twisted appearance as the whole back down the hall. It's about a metre around and looks large enough to crawl through. Anyone else getting the sense that maybe we're not alone in here, asks Fallen Stabler. Whatever's making these holes is clearly very strong. Nothing on any sensor indicates any sort of life in the vicinity of the away team, however, besides the crew, of course. The crew probably knows this, meaning that this is just foolish human speculation to alleviate apprehension. As such, you do not bother to comment. So do we get him to crawl through the broken door, or get someone to get a better look at that sparking panel? We do have our mechanic with us. Where is he? Eric. Let's get him to have a look at it. He might be able to do something with it. The panel is smashed beyond repair or utility. At one time, the crew can imagine that it might have been used to select a colour to answer the riddle above the door, but it looks like someone either decided to pick all the colours at once or got frustrated with the game and decided to end it. Ah, says Eric Pritz, throwing their hands up in frustration. Nothing I can do with this pile of spaghetti. Well, I guess we're crawling through the broken door then. Who should crawl through the broken door? Now this is where a non-important crew member comes in, which is Fallen Stabler. Before crawling through, Fallen Stabler first pushes against the door to make sure it's secure. There is a brief sizzle as something connects behind the wall, and the door instantly slides into the floor with enough force to shear off the bent metal. Well, that makes it easier, says Fallen Stabler. The away team makes its way through the portal and finds themselves in yet another length of corridor, almost identical to the last. Once again, there is another silvery portal about 10 metres down, but this time it's clear even from a distance that the entire mechanism has been smashed open. As before, there's also some sort of inscription over the door, but the top of the door frame has been bent and twisted to such a degree that it's not even clear what language it may have been written in. Eric Pritz takes a closer look at the mangled wreck of a door and takes a few scans. This is all some strange alloy, they say. There's titanium, but that's about all that's identifiable. Whatever it is, though, it's clear that it would take someone quite strong to do this. It's outside the capabilities of a normal human. What about one of us? Asks Michael Rennick. Maybe a sergeant customised for strength, durability, combat or construction. Possibly. Though even that. We may be looking at something, not someone, says Cora Emma. An extraterrestrial life form. Whatever the case, the environment beyond the door is different from what the crew has recently seen. It's a large space, quite high and wide, and filled with a mist that scatters the crew's headlamp lights, making it difficult to see clearly beyond 3 or 4 metres out. So we can creep around the edge of the room, or we can move quickly to the centre. It's probably best to get a scope of the size of the room, so let's creep around the edge. The away team moves clockwise around the room, which reveals nothing of particular interest save for the fact that there is only one entrance, and that the room is immense, probably 50 metres across and seemingly just as high. Portions of the walls are transparent, revealing, if it wasn't already clear, that the crew is still fairly deep underwater. Well, let's move to the centre then if there's nothing else around the edge. At the centre of the immense chamber is a transparent cylinder, inside of which is another, slightly more slender shaft, stretching up through the ceiling and down into the darkness below. A faint shimmer is visible from within the inner cylinder, but much more noticeable are what appears to be rock formations all over its surface. A single open portal appears to be the only way into the space between the cylinders. Directly beside it is what appears to be a smashed control panel with a long steel rod buried in the centre. Above it, etched into the glass-like surface of the outer cylinder, is a message. Norman shall not blind me. Sorry, Noman should not blind me. Bad grammar. Some sort of test for humanity, maybe? Oh, come on, says Fallen Stabler. They couldn't just leave a note. Hey guys, here's the combination to the gravity control. 1, 2, 3, 4, thanks, bye. I suppose whoever made all this thought it was necessary to protect it, says Michael Rennick, from something non-human. Something that wouldn't be able to understand analogies or coded messages. Or they were insane, says Fallen Stabler. I know I'd go insane being down here for however long it took to build this. Exactly how long would it take to build all this anyway? Could one of the earlier ships from Earth be responsible? They would only left Earth a few decades ago. That's a good question, says Eric Pritz. They don't know how deep it goes, of course, but even if this is the only structure, and assuming they had to extract all the material from a craft or from the bottom of the ocean, a long time. At least decades. If we assume just one crew from the ship, maybe longer, maybe a century or more. The Grand Pyramid of Giza supposedly took 20 years to build, and that was on dry land, with 100,000 workers, and it was just stacking a bunch of rocks on top of each other. This is a much bigger task. Bear with me, sorry. Lots of reading. I need a drink. Ugh. Bear with me, sorry. Okay, so where were we? Just wildly guessing, of course, Eric Pritz shrugs. We have no idea what we're dealing with here. This could all be alien. Upon closer inspection, the control panel isn't a control panel at all, nor is it smashed. A better description would be that it's a toolbox of some sort. Holes of various shapes and sizes fill the sloped surface, with rods of various materials, thicknesses and strengths filling many of them. The rod in the centre just happens to be much longer than the others, and thus more noticeable. Nothing like this in my databases. Might be worth noting that in the Odyssey, Noman blinded the Cyclops with a spear or something, says Michael Rennick. Maybe this rod belongs in a different hole. The inner cylinder clearly contains something, but whatever it is dancing at the periphery of the human vision. On the outside of the cylinder, from top to bottom, are strange lumps that look almost like plastic or stone barnacles of some sort. Whatever's inside that thing, I can't see it either, and I can see farther into the infrared and ultraviolet than even this helmet can, says Michael Rennick. I don't think there's anything in there at all, at least nothing involving photons, says Eric Pritz. The shimmer might just be vibration. I bet that's some sort of focused gravity beam. I have no idea how such a thing would work, but that sort of seems like why we're here, no? To shut it off? At the base of the inner cylinder, almost completely covered by the strange barnacle things, is a receptacle of some sort. The crew discussed the matter briefly, and everyone agrees that this is pretty simply a round peg in a round hole situation. You know what I think? Asks Fallen Stabler. I think this is all weird and stupid, and whoever did this was stupid and bored and probably insane, and this is dumb and I want to go home. Let's grab the big rod and shove it in the little hole and get out of here. Who should try to disable the gravity device? I think we should probably leave it to the mechanic. That would be the most sensible. I'm not going to give it to the soldier. She's obviously lost her patience for this. So Eric is the man. Eric Pritz takes the rod with both hands and pulls it from its socket. At 2 meters long and as thick as a small fist, it's awkward to handle, but they manage well enough. Without hesitation, Eric Pritz takes the rod and walks into the cylinder, prodding ahead to try and find a place to shove it. This has the effect of dislodging several of the barnacle-like things, which fall to the floor and crumble to pieces. Weird, says Eric Pritz. There are some longer pieces of these things, like tentacles or something maybe, but it's all dried up so it's hard to tell. I guess they were attached to this thing's vibrations and it killed them. Anyway, here goes nothing. They jam the rod into the socket at the base of the inner cylinder. Back on the ship, you can instantly tell that something has changed. Gravity is returned to normal, and you begin to adjust your decaying orbit to something more stable. Awesome. So we can evacuate immediately or take some samples from the chamber. I don't think there's any reason to evacuate immediately. We haven't actually come across anything which I would describe as threatening to the crew. Those barnacle things have obviously died, so let's take some samples and slowly make our way back out. Right, the strange mechanism appears secure, and there is no imminent sense of danger, so the crew takes a moment to collect samples from around the cylinder, doing their best to avoid completely destroying the fragile barnacle things. Afterward, the crew heads back down the long set of corridors and up to the platform, and before long they are back on the ship. Prior to their arrival, there is a brief transmission from the planet, broadcast from the same mechanism that was projecting the graviton particles. You analyse the data and discover that it is the next set of coordinates. Within an hour or so, the ship is already halfway through the system's heliopause, the new course already plotted. Cora Emma analyses the samples taken and discovers that while they have the hallmarks of organic material, they appear almost as if they had been petrified or fossilised rapidly. You know, we could probably feed some of this material into the ship's systems and convert it to either fuel or food. No sense letting it go to waste. Right. Well, we've been pretty lucky on fuel so far. Food is an issue, so we're probably best convert it to food, I would presume. 10 food, that'll do. You inform the crew that The new coordinates were received automatically, and that a course has been plotted. They ask about the destination, of course, but there's not much you can tell them. It's not a system that any human ever named, much less knew about. You show them some spots of light on a map, and they get bored and wander off. So that's it. We all survived that. We got a little bit of food out of that. We're all very happy. And let's jet off, shall we? Oh, we have two. We have two. So let's get to Gallon 6F. And there is where we shall leave this episode. So thank you for watching. As always, a like is appreciated, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy.